I'm certainly not afraid to admit there's been times where I well up and I'm, trying to speak and record videos to my team, and I get too emotional because I know that I've had to make decisions along with our team and our ownership group that have cost people their jobs and have cost people time out of work. But these were decisions we had to make for the longevity of our company and our brand and things. But it's tough. It's emotional. And yeah, you have a good cry, you have a stiff drink, and you talk yourself through it and try to get out the other side.
Welcome to this week's Escape Your Limits podcast. And if you're in the fitness business, then I think you'll find this episode extremely valuable as we talk to someone that's had to permanently close 30 locations. They're also one of the first operators to reopen their facilities and go through all of the different requirements in order to get their businesses back up and running. They not only own corporate clubs, but they also have franchises all around the world. And we also talk about how they've created this hybrid fitness model so that they have a membership both inside the fitness facility and at home. I think you'll really find this episode extremely valuable. It's with Mr. Adam Zeitsiff, the CEO and President of Gold's Gym International. Adam Zeitsiff, thank you so much for joining us today on the Escape podcast. I know you've probably got a lot going on in your world at the moment, but I just want to ask you, from on a personal perspective, how's it going?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I certainly appreciate it, Matthew, and it's been so exciting to be here. And it's been, it's like with everybody in the industry, it's been a challenging 60, 75 days, at least domestically, longer around the rest of the world, right? But it's we're getting on well. We're making the best of it. We got a lot of things going on in our world, but for me, it's about making sure my team members are happy and healthy and their families are healthy, and we're all kind of sticking to it together to try to get through this, but one day at a time.
Yeah, and from a personal perspective, what's it like at home with I assume you're at home at the moment, are you?
Actually, this is my first week back in our global support center, so there's only a small handful of us here, but I'm back. But yeah, I spent about 8 weeks at home. With my wife and my 2 older kids, my younger kids, and an 8-month-old baby is one of them. And so it's been quite interesting. I enjoyed it tremendously. I do miss them when I'm here. I think my wife is appreciating a little bit of her extra space right now, but I also think by around 4 o'clock, she's ready for me to come home. So,
so tell us a bit about what's happened. Like I'm sure a lot of people have read the news about what's happening with Gold's Gym, and I just thought it'd be interesting for you to kind of explain a little bit about that story. I know there's different parts of your business, so if it's okay with you, what was the lead up to that like, and what was the decision that you guys had to make, and why?
Yeah, so when I came back here in February of 19. My mission, my plan was to turn us into, once again, the best franchisor of full service, full amenity fitness around the world. And as you know, we're in 29 countries and growing, and we've been doing this for 55 years. But domestically in the U.S., we had a little over 110 company-owned Gold's Gyms. And for us, we were working hard since the moment I came back to work on a refranchising effort, to refranchise those gyms and award those to people who lived and breathed in those local communities, who understood their backyard and could really focus on those businesses and really grow them. And we had a goal of refranchising 50 or 60 clubs and keeping about 60 or so for ourselves, supporting our franchisees, which we do well around the world, and continuing to really accelerate the growth of our business through franchising. So we got about halfway to that point. We refranchised clubs in the DC, Virginia, Maryland area, Tennessee, a couple in LA, to our amazing franchise partners there. And we're well on our way to do that. We had a great operating model in our company-owned gyms that we had just reworked. We were ahead of all of our forecasts going into 2020, the first 10 weeks. And then, of course, we all know what happened. And by mid-March, our lives changed forever. And so at that point, after about a month of realizing we were shut down and seeing really how detrimental COVID-19 was, not just to our business, but to retail and restaurant and fitness and everybody, and looking at those approximately 30 or so company-owned gyms that we had that we really wanted to continue to refranchise. At that point, in order to protect really the future of this brand and to take swift action and to make sure that we could be here for 55 years or longer, we had to make the decision to restructure the business through that Chapter 11 process, shut down those 30 or so gyms that were still part of our plan to refranchise, and really make sure we could come out of this thing and emerge even stronger and cleaner, with a strong balance sheet, with a great portfolio of 60 or so company-owned gyms, and a really strong franchise network that is still struggling right now to recover from this as we reopen, and they will recover with their own support and our support, and then really grow the business from a franchising perspective. So that's why we made that decision. We made it proactively. We have a responsibility to our global franchisees and our global community around the world, and that's my job to make sure that we're here and we're going to be supporting them for the long term.
So with the clubs that you closed down, then, so have you coming out totally on the corporately owned facilities now going forward?
So we'll still have about 60 of those when we emerge out of this. In fact, as we record this, we have opened our clubs in Oklahoma City, the company-owned gyms. In a couple more days, on Monday, we reopen the ones in Texas, which is between ourselves. Our company-owned gyms is, I think it's 46, 47, and then of course our franchisees in Texas. And the week afterwards, we'll have our Carolina gyms open, with just California remaining from a company-owned perspective. So no, we are excited to keep those 60 or so clubs, and going to try to regrow them and build and protect those markets. But I think that we won't be out there. We won't be double that again. We're not going to be in that 100 or plus company-owned gym range anymore. That's just not where we want to be.
Were you starting to see? You mentioned that you plan to franchise some of those locations, but with the COVID situation, had that just put more pressure on some of those locations that were tough previously?
Mm-hmm.
Had that just accelerated the process that you were thinking about previously?
It did. It accelerated the process, but it made it so that even though those gyms could potentially possibly recover, it would have been much harder to have them recover, and much harder for a franchisee to come in there and make a viable business out of them long term. The last thing we want to do as a franchisor is set someone up for failure, and that's just not what we want to do. And we had to manage the cash flow drain and the potential liabilities that could have been very detrimental to our business, and that's why we chose to proactively restructure through that filing and get ahead of it and get this, hopefully be emerged from that filing before even, unfortunately, many gyms around the country might still not be open, right? And that's our plan, so we can be in and out of it and ready to really accelerate out of the gates.
So prior to the COVID, I guess, sort of forcing this situation on you guys, and you mentioned that you were looking to sort of franchise a bunch of them anyway. But what would you say is that, were there other changes that you had seen as a CEO kind of emerging in terms of consumer behavior changes or certain rent increases or whatever that had just made your old business model more difficult to sort of have going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the things pre-COVID that we saw, certainly, landlords had a lot more leverage, 60, 75 days ago. So that was still something, even though there's plenty of space out there, the big box space, of course. And we've seen lots of companies, we have franchisees who are taking advantage of some of the available big boxes, right, to get great deals for their gyms, especially in California, for example. But, we certainly saw those landlords with a little bit more leverage. We saw the consumer really looking for, early days, that kind of hybrid solution. We were seeing more uptake in our gyms of our, for example, Gold's Amp, our digital fitness app, and our solution that we have. And we can talk in a little bit, I'm sure, about what that looks like right now. But we did see our consumer looking to be, whether they're working out a little bit at home 60 days ago or a lot more in the gym, they were looking for more of a converged solution and like that kind of full service offering. And so I think we saw some of those things happening, and a lot of that stuff certainly accelerated over the last couple of months.
And how would the low price models affected you guys? Did that cause you to have to sort of move in response to that? And were a lot of those type of customers previously coming to a Gold's Gym, for example?
Yeah. So what and again, speaking just for our company-owned gyms, I mean, we made some adjustments to our pricing, and we are certainly, not trying to change our model. And it is HVLP, HVLP2. There'll probably be a 3. All these things. We are not focused on that as much as making sure we can offer our members the best full service, mid-market gym experience they can for that $30 to $40 price range, right? And so at our company-owned gyms for a long time, we were, our entry-level price was a $40 membership. And we made some adjustments over the last couple of months pre-COVID, and kind of put that entry-level price at more of that $30, $29.95 range. And we saw a tremendous uptick from that. And when I mean uptick, I mean, yes, increase in volume for a mid-market, full-service kind of gym like a Gold's Gym. But we also saw a significant amount of people not be afraid to commit, right? And people are, you hear all about no contracts and just pay a small amount per month. But, we had over, give or take 80% of our new members over the last couple of months pre-COVID that were committing to a year, no problem, because they felt it was a good price point. They felt comfortable at that $30 a month. They were getting a full service gym, the group exercise classes, the kids club, all the other amenities that we offer here, and options for others. And they felt comfortable with that. So for us, as any operator, it's a fine line between what can you charge, but how long you get them to commit to be there, and how well you engage them. And we were really focused on retention and engagement. We had deployed a whole new retention program. And that's why also we felt people were pretty excited and comfortable signing up for the long term, because they saw we were engaging, we were retaining, and we saw our NPS scores go through the roof over the first 4 months of this program, again, pre-COVID. And it all tied to their happiness in the club, how we were supporting them. And so I think, price point, HVLP market certainly has a market for itself, and it's growing like crazy. But I think we focus on the folks who are looking for more of that full service club, affordable, and who's known for a long time for getting you results, whatever results means in your fitness journey.
I guess Gold's is a brand that I certainly remember when I came into fitness 30 odd years ago. It was always, I think I had the T-shirt, and it just seems to be one of the original gym brands.
Yes.
And I guess you're probably, one of the first brands to have the gyms that you own directly, and then also to probably franchise is my guess. What sort of changes have you seen in that model as a company where you're operating both? Has that changed over the years, and more recently, hence your decision to kind of focus more on the franchises, or is it just more specifically related to your business where it makes more sense to be growing via franchise as opposed to corporate own?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think any franchisor in any industry needs to have their petri dish. It needs to have a group of company-owned restaurants, retail stores, fitness gyms where they can experiment, where they can deploy new products, where they can drink their own Kool-Aid, right, and have that base. And even some of the largest quick serve restaurant chains with thousands of locations have at least 30 or 40 of their own company owned, so they can make sure they have that environment, so they can talk the talk and walk the walk. And so I think that's very important. I think we realized over the last couple of years really where the value in our business is and what we can offer. And we've always been known as the trusted fitness authority, and that doesn't mean we have to operate our own gyms to be known as that. In fact, that's why franchising works so well, because you get your local operators who become the experts in the local trusted fitness authority as Gold's Gym, and we support them really well. And I think we saw the value of that and realized that as much as we, over the last decade, started to, whether it was acquire or build new gyms, and that's always important, I think we've learned quickly that we can operate that group of 50 or 60 clubs, have our petri dish, but really take what's valuable and help other people grow and live out their dreams and grow the brand that way.
So bringing us to where we are today, what are you seeing now on the, I guess on both the corporately owned side and the franchise side in terms of planning to navigate this situation? Because I guess there's you're probably one of the few companies that have such a global footprint. What are you seeing happening? I guess initially with your own corporate clubs, and again state by state, I'm sure that's different. Yeah. And then some of your franchise partners. What's the assessment of where we are today?
Yeah, so I mean, I want to give credit. The first Gold's Gym around the world to reopen after being shut down was Gold's Gym Mongolia. They did a great job. They have one location, but they work with the government. They built the standards for gyms with the government. They got the government to approve those standards, and they reopened after some training with those safety standards about 3 weeks ago. And they're doing well, and they're getting back to some traffic and people coming in, and so they did a great job. And then we just kind of took some learnings from them. We took learnings from lots of other gyms in the Asia Pacific market, just like all my colleagues out there have done. And we then really started to apply those learnings to our franchise network and our community, and looked at the local and state guidelines, right, to see what they're doing for reopenings, and made sure we were at or above those guidelines. And so, to your point, yeah, we've got some gyms outside the U.S. reopening, and they're starting to continue. We like to say the sun never sets on Gold's Gym, and thankfully there's now gyms around the world open again. But in the U.S., we're open in Georgia, and our franchisees there are doing a great job. Same in Tennessee, Wyoming, and as I mentioned, Oklahoma City. And we've just been looking at what this temporary new norm is, right? And yes, we've got to do all the things that you hear about people doing in these clubs: social distancing or physical distancing, the equipment and the treadmills, and spacing and floor spacers and masks and gloves and temperature checks if the government needs it, and all those things. And so we're really focused now on making sure that each of our franchisees in each state or in each country are finding out what the local municipalities and guidelines are and the rules are, marrying it to some of the best practices we help deliver to them to make sure they've got at least the bare minimum required. We want them to go above and beyond, because I think it's important for members to feel comfortable, not just safe, but feel comfortable in a gym, because they'll continue to come back during a crisis like this. So that's what we're doing, and we're gearing up. And it's also the team members too. I'm sure you've been talking to lots of folks, and their team members need to feel comfortable. They need to know that we are taking care of them. We've got the guidelines and the PPE in place, and that we're making sure we take this seriously. We're not rushing to get open on the day we are allowed to if we're not ready. We're making sure we're ready first, and that everyone's trained. And so I think it's important not to forget the team members. But that's kind of what we've been doing and how we've been handling it so far. And as you said, we're still in the early days. We're seeing more countries get the okay in more states. And just like a lot of my colleagues around the world, we're just keeping a very close eye on it.
And how is that? How is that being managed from a brand perspective then? Because I suppose each country is slightly different. Are you as a brand sort of setting some of those guidelines that apply generally across the board, or are you having to manage that on a market by market basis and sort of almost allowing the countries to advise what they should be doing?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a franchise support team around the world for our international franchisees, our domestic ones. So they're working closely with all their customers, the franchisees or the master franchisees. They're pulling down the reports from the governments on the local guidelines. They're matching them to what we've done already, giving them suggestions on where they can do better and how they can improve and how they can manage their team members' expectations and their members' expectations. So yeah, our team, we unfortunately, like everyone, we had to furlough a lot of people during this crisis, but we kept our skeleton crew at the Global Support Center. We kept our global franchise team intact, because it's very important during times of crisis like this to step up and support your partners and support your franchisees around the world. And so they're heavily involved every day in helping them and giving them guidelines and sharing. In fact, I just got off a webinar that we just did for our entire domestic base, all about reopening. Our franchisees that are open, they shared their best practices, as did we, because we have clubs open. And we had hundreds of people on that webinar from our franchise community around this country, just listening and learning and participating.
Are you finding any commonalities, that almost like standards across all countries? Like you mentioned social distancing, but are there any sort of things that you can say, well, look, pretty much all markets that we operate in, these are things that are going to shape what in your business is likely to look at, from the free weights to the cardio to the strength and managing the sort of guests as they come in and out the business? Is there any things that just, what you think are going to be common across everywhere?
Yeah, although some states are on one end of the spectrum where they're like, okay, open up, do your best, and some states are literally very rigid, and there's everything in between. But I think what we're seeing, definitely the consistent pieces, is shutting down cardio or spacing it out, so you've got at least 6 feet in between, both next to each other and alternating across. Moving strength equipment, definitely physically distancing that. I think the PPE for the staff at a bare minimum, we're seeing very consistent, at least the mask and the gloves. Also consistent, we're definitely seeing capacity guidelines right now. Here in the great state of Texas, we're going to open up at 25% capacity. I think, and similar, I think Georgia was very similar for a while. Some states open at 50% and some open with none, but there's some sort of capacity, at least in most states. So we're seeing that piece of it. And we are seeing them limiting things like, most states are limiting things like, full-on locker room use other than the toilets, right? And some of the things like Kids Club phase 1 that's pretty consistent where, hey, let's hold off on that. Let's make sure we get this right, get everyone comfortable and safe, and then move that to phase 2.
How are you? Like, cardio and strength seems to be very easy to manage, in terms of controlling what people do and preventing them from sort of breaking those guidelines. But how are you finding it in areas like the free weights area, which are generally always one of the busier areas in the facility, where there's not the ability to kind of manage how people go in and out of dumbbells, or the functional training areas where you've got a lot of people moving around? Are you keeping those open, or have you got some ways to control that at all?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough, and it was a challenge as we were getting ready for this. And yeah, you're right. Cardio straightforward. What we did is we moved all the benches in the strength areas around, and we put the floor clings that we designed next to them, so people could see, okay, this bench is here by this floor cling. We did that also in the multifunctional areas, or the turf areas, or wherever we had people just with stretching areas. So we had those floor clings around as well. We're also greeting people as we come in and giving them a quick insight, their first time back in the gym, so they can kind of understand what these things mean. We even had our members in our company-owned gyms. We created a new code of conduct amendment where they sign digitally before they come in, or when they walk in, they can scan the QR code, and just to agree to that code of conduct, and to make sure they abide by it. So some of those areas are a little bit difficult, but we also have people walking around the floor. They're walking around, they've got the little spray bottle on their hip, and they got the paper towels, and they're walking around cleaning and chatting and talking to people. And we've had to train them. We've had to train them on conversations we never thought they'd have to have, like, hey, Matthew, good to see you, looking good after a couple months. By the way, you're standing too close to her. Like, those are things we got to be careful of, and we've been trying to teach them. So they're walking around and helping, and I think members get it. I was in our Oklahoma City gyms last week, our opening day, talking to members, myself, hanging out, and they got it. Mask on, working out, clean up after myself, stay apart, do my best, and I think it was been grilled into them everywhere else.
Are you getting the members then wearing masks as well?
Yeah, so what we're doing is at Gold's Gym company-owned stores, we're adhering to local guidelines. So if they say members must wear them, then we make sure they are. We coined the phrase, not coined the phrase, but we like to say, bring BYOM, bring your own mask. We strongly recommend they BYOM to our clubs. And I would say a good portion of our members, when I was in the clubs last week, had the mask on. So, we certainly follow the local guidelines, but I think most people feel comfortable. And eventually, that'll be up to them what they continue. But our team members are certainly in masks and gloves right now.
Do you think that there'll be sort of more of a situation where the responsibility is on the client, the user, to take their own precautions, as opposed to that necessarily, being the club's responsibility to manage if they're too close to each other? Like, I go into supermarkets, for example, and they kind of, have signs up and say, look, keep distance, but they're not policing it or anything like that. Would you say the same thing will happen in the gyms? It's like, look, use some common sense and just don't do anything stupid.
Yeah, I think so. I think and you've been in this industry a long time. The fitness industry is the ultimate sense of community, especially in the clubs, right? You build your own community, you look after each other. And I think people will do that. They will help, I hate to say self-police, but, self-patrol and look around, and they see something going on. Usually people are the first to speak up, but I also think they're respectful. Thankfully, generally, most people are respectful and understand we're in unprecedented times. And I know it might be a little hard to do a bench press with a mask, but if you have a mask and you're safe and you're feeling good, you'll be back and you'll stay healthy. And so I think we will continue to make sure that we are cleaning up after members, making sure they're doing it themselves as well, a little bit of both. And I think we'll find a happy medium at some point, but it's still pretty early days.
Yeah, that's right. And what are you doing about things like dumbbells and bars, where I suppose you've got people, putting them down, picking them up? Are you getting them to wipe that stuff down themselves as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We are asking them to wipe it down themselves, but we also have somebody in the strength area pretty much at all times in our company-owned gym. So they're keeping an eye out, they're helping. And it was great. I did witness a lot of people grab the paper towels or grab the cleaning wipes that are already there, and they pull it out of the bucket, and they were wiping the dumbbells down and the barbell and of course the benches and things like that. And they were all over it, right? Some states like Texas is actually requiring full fingered gloves when we reopen on Monday. So obviously we'll still clean, of course, but they want people to wear gloves and then wipe them down afterwards just to help, with the sanitization piece.
And what about like areas where you've got, like, I know Group X in a lot of cases are not open, but what do you see happening in spaces like that? Will it be a case of where you have to bring your own mask? Can you see people bringing their own boxing gloves and yoga mats and that sort of thing to classes more, as opposed to having communal ones?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the unfortunate normal for a while. I mean, even though they're not open, we're already looking at the floor clings and starting to install them in our group exercise rooms and our studios, and figuring out what that 25 or 50% capacity max is going to look like, and making sure we monitor it correctly. I think we are going to be in that unfortunate normal where if it's a yoga class, it's going to bring your own mat. If it's a boxing or kickboxing, bring your own gloves. I think we're going to need to do that for a little while. And I kind of think people will, I feel they would understand it. As a consumer, they probably feel safer. I got my own yoga mat. I know that I clean it. I know it goes back in my trunk in the car, and off I go.
I've seen some pictures going around the internet of, I think they're from Asia actually, where they've got these screens in cardio areas. I suppose in some ways it allows you to get more people in there. What are your thoughts on things like that as an operator?
I mean, I've seen those pictures as well, and we in our front desk, and we got the shipments in for the next round today. I saw some pictures. We are installing the plexiglass that protects people and has a little hole you can slide through, and the sneeze guard type things, and that's about as far as we're going there. I understand that those may help protect, but I also feel just personally those are also add to the cleaning nightmare. What could be a nightmare to spray them and clean them, and they could become carriers themselves. And I just think it's one extra surface that could potentially contain the germ, although maybe saving someone in between. But they could also contain germs themselves. It's just the cleaning, man. Those things, it's like cleaning a glass table, right? You never get them clean. So I think we're not going to go that route. I'd rather shut the cardio machines down, making sure we're cleaning and spraying with the medical grade cleaning supplies, and just go that route. My opinion.
I know a lot of models nowadays, as the sort of industry's evolved, there's a very fine line between your rent costs and your staff costs and and the number of members that you need inside a facility, and I guess with the pressure from a lot of the low cost businesses, that's probably even more sort of sensitive now. How do you think if this continues beyond a few months, how do you think the business models will need to evolve to make that work with your 25% or your 50% within the facility at one time? Do you see maybe prices having to go up to make the models work if you can't get the amount of people you used to have in?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question, right? That's going to be a tough one. We've modeled it a couple different ways, and we're still looking at it. We've modeled some pretty dreary assumptions in terms of member loss, and we've tried to kind of see what that could look if it was a little better and be a little less conservative in that regards. But we were pretty conservative and just modeled a lot of member loss. But at the same time, for us, we may have anywhere from 20 to 30 people working at a gym, and we're going to have 8 right now between housekeeping, front desk, and managers, right? So we are dropping our operating expenses accordingly during this time. We're going to see how that balances out. I think we were pleasantly surprised that our post-open attrition in terms of member count loss was nowhere near as high as we thought, but also, billing hadn't started yet, so we'll see how that goes. But I feel cautiously optimistic that we will not have the attrition we thought from a total member count. But we're going to be looking at it, running the models pretty much weekly, seeing what it looks like, looking at our operating expenses. And yes, staff operating expenses will be lower to begin with, but cleaning expenses and supplies will be higher. So it probably won't offset, but it's still going to be there. So we're looking at all these things, and we're going to have to play it almost week by week and make decisions and be nimble.
And you mentioned that about the cleaning. I guess at some point there's going to be the need maybe for extra bodies than what I guess general businesses have probably had. Is that how you're seeing it? That you'll just need to have more cleaning staff in the clubs, particularly when they open the changing rooms and things?
Yeah, I mean, for us, so at our company-owned Gold's Gyms, again, speaking from there, and a lot of our franchisees as well, we do have a housekeeping staff that we had on staff already. So we have that staff, they're in the clubs all day, but we also are allocating, for example, instead of 2 front desk people moving forward after the first week of things dying down, that front desk person is probably gonna be on the floor, cleaning, following up. We're not opening personal training to start, so we've got 1 or 2 that are coming back to help and just be on the floor and monitor. So we will have people who may have been in other jobs in that job right now. But expense-wise, look, we at our company-owned gyms, we decided every night we're bringing in a third-party company above and beyond our own housekeeping team who's going to come in and electrostatic spray and clean the whole gym. With the sprayers, they come in every night, they spray, it dries, sanitizes. We did some tests a couple of weeks ago when we were closed. It was fantastic, and so we just added that to the P&L. That's just there, that extra fixed cost every month, but they're coming every night after close and doing that, and so it's another expense, but I think it's certainly a worthwhile one that we have to manage.
What was, when you opened the clubs that you recently have, your corporate ones? What was the sort of feedback from your member perspective? There's you certainly, when you look at social media at the moment, there seems to be such people's views as almost like polar opposites in extremes. You've got people that are very angry about
protesting,
leaving the house, and then you've got people that are just very angry about coming back. How have you managed the politics around opening and doing the right thing for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, it starts first and foremost with our team members. We took some extra time. I hate to say recruit, but you kind of had to recruit. Once you got your GMs and your managers in the club back, the couple of managers you have, it's really going out there and making sure you find your team members who are comfortable, who feel that they're not in any risk categories, and they can come back and wear their PPE and be back. And so I think once you get them comfortable, I think members we're seeing. I think it's going to take a little time. In Oklahoma City, in the first 4 or 5 days, much better than I thought. We were at about 60% of our check-ins compared to last year, which on any given day pre-COVID, we'd be mortified. But I mean, we actually much better than I thought, and much better than we've seen around the country. So I think it's just going to take time. And what I'm telling people is, look, come on in. Don't even wear your workout clothes. Just come in, put your gloves and a mask on, walk around, see what we've done, see how we've separated everything, see all the cleaning stations, see the staff running around making sure things are good, see other members there. Just get your anxiety levels down, which is why we're posting pictures on social and some videos and letting people see that, we're doing everything we can. Nothing's guaranteed, but everything we can to keep you safe, make you feel comfortable, and just come in and see for yourself. And if you feel good, then come back the next time, put your gear on and have a good workout, and we'll do our part if you do your part.
Do you see this as being a little bit of a sort of leveling the playing field again, where you've almost got to sort of as individual brands competing for clients? Do you think it's people the consumers going to re-look at what they're doing and where they're going, and the brands that are doing some of the stuff like you're talking about and doing a good job and being transparent and easing them in it's going to be an important part of where they rejoin if they come back at all?
Yeah, I think so. I really do. And I think, just like during a crisis, how you treat people, whether they're your team members, your customers, I think speaks volumes. And we've done our best. We're certainly not perfect. We've done our best to weekly communications to our members, sometimes emails, sometimes videos from me. I know our franchisees were doing the same. They were great about it. Same thing with team members, even the furloughed ones, and staying in touch with them weekly. And I think it does. I think, to your point, it does resonate. It maybe levels the playing field a little bit. And I think people look at how you treated them during the crisis and then the first few weeks emerging from the crisis. And I think the goal is you build loyalties there, and you hopefully keep those members for a long time.
After being involved in opening some clubs and being ready to open some clubs and sort of all different stages, what would you say are some of the biggest risks as an operator that you've got to be really dialed into? Is there anything that sort of stood out more than anything that you've got to get right?
I think for me, and I've been saying this a lot the last couple of months, interviews and the circuits and stuff, I think for me, what the COVID pandemic has done has accelerated this hybridization of what you're seeing in the fitness world. And you got those folks like the Pelotons and the Echelons and the Nordic Tracks of the world who've been out there, and some other apps that have been out there for a while as kind of disruptors. And they're over here and we're over here as operators, right? And they're disrupting and they're doing a great job. And some of those are, some people can't afford that option and some people can. But now I think what you're seeing is that it's going to be completely a hybridization approach. And if you're an operator, and I've been saying this a lot, if you can't come together and have a physical fitness solution that has the same voice and persona and messaging as a digital one that's from your people and that gives your members an option to have a workout or two at home during the week with you and your trainers and your brand and your voice, and then 2 or 3 workouts a week in the gym because it helps their schedule and they kind of got used to it. And they want to spend more time with the family on the weekends and not get up in the morning and sneak out for the gym and hope they can get back in time. I think that is probably the most critical thing I've seen about this as an operator is we've got to look at that. I don't care if you're just one location, a couple, or a couple thousand around the world. Hybridization and the digital and the physical aspect of fitness is here to stay. People will expect it, and I think it will build loyalties and help people achieve their results a lot better as well.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I've had a good look at your AMP app, and it's very impressive. And from what I've read, is you developed that in 2017, so it's been going for some time, way before this happens. What are your thoughts? Because I guess everybody now, if the clubs are closed down, and everybody's reaction is right. We're going to create content, we're going to put it out, and you see everybody now, suppliers and operators that are putting out workouts, and I suppose they think, okay, well, we've got a trainer, they can do workouts, let's do that. But being in that space ourselves, it's a very different business model. Just creating content and editing it and getting the lighting and producing, and then the music thing, which you guys have got a really nice solution in your app. What's your thoughts about companies that are considering doing that, maybe as a reactive move? And what are some of the lessons that you guys have been learning since going back to 2017 about that digital solution to complement the bricks and mortar?
Yeah, I think the learnings we've had is, a couple of things. Number one, I think it's best to have your people in both, right? We've got, as you said, Gold's Amp, and those are, for the most part, trainers. Well, they're all employees of Gold's Gym, for minus a couple of guest people we had come in, but for the most part, you can bump into them in our gyms, whether they're our franchisees' gyms, because we've had guests from franchisees come in, our own gyms that we own. Those are our employees. Those are our team members. You might do a 30-minute workout with Sally on your running at home if she works you through because you got no time on the weekend to come into Gold's, but Gold's Amp has that workout, and you might bump into her training someone in your gym, right? So I think the first thing is certainly make sure that your people are involved. I know there's tons of great third-party content out there. I don't mean to knock it in any way. It's all top quality, excellent content. But as an operator, if you want your brand and you want loyalty to your brand from your members long-term, really need to have content that is A, from your brand, B, from your people, and C, in your voice. Like the same way you talk to them in one of your studio classes or one of your small group training classes in your gym, and the nomenclature and the things that you use should be the same things you do in the digital, right? So they just feel I'm part of XYZ gym or Gold's Gym, and it's exactly what I do in the gym is what I do when I'm not there, and I just do it a little differently, but I feel all the same. And that's been one of the biggest lessons learned that we've had, is how to do that, how to speak to them, how to engage them, and how to make them realize that, yes, the gym is the best place to get a great workout in, the best selection of equipment, the variety, the classes, the community. But if you can't get in 1 or 2 days a week, then you know what? We've got a solution for you that will more than make up for it when you're not there. And so I think that's really important for people. And there's lots of live classes, like you said, people going Instagram Live and Facebook Live, and that's great. But those platforms are these more public-facing platforms that are still not your voice, and they don't demand loyalty and create loyalty to your members as much as your own solutions, your own app, and your own people doing it.
Has it been a bit, or when you started it, I believe, if I'm right, that you were probably the one in your previous role that drove that. Was that correct?
Yes, yeah, in 2017, correct. Yep.
Right. Was it? I suppose, was there a lot of work involved in doing that as a fitness business? My guess is you've got to set up all of that production, and I suppose was there a big investment required, and did it take a long time to really find the groove in terms of where you should be playing in that space? Because there's also a lot of competition in that world as well, I guess.
There is. Yeah, I mean, for us, it was, I think the thought behind it was, like, we understand, and I certainly feel that you're that we're not going to be not the Netflix to the Blockbuster. Right? I don't think these apps are certainly going to disrupt us in that regards, right? But we felt that we needed to build loyalty and keep loyalty. So having an app as a brick and mortar brand really helped that. But for us, it was about a 9-month endeavor, because we really wanted to make sure that this could be something that we could expand across the country. Our franchisees could see benefit in, that we could have for them as well. And so for us, that's why it took a little bit of time. We licensed the music. We wanted to really make sure we had robust music from today, workouts, all the things that we have in there. So yeah, it was a significant investment, but that doesn't mean that a current operator, 1, 2, 5 locations can't get in there these days. There are third-party companies that can help them with the back end, with the mobile app, and they can use their own facilities and their own gyms and create some really good content and get it up there to help their members.
And do you have, is it like you actually have a division now within your business that manages that? Because like I say, as an outsider, and I recommend anybody checking it out, but particularly how it works with the music, it's pretty impressive, I must say.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We've got a business, for years we've been an operator of clubs, a franchisor, and a licensor, and really our 4th business unit now is digital, right? And we've got some, don't want to give them away, but we've got some really large scale plans, global plans. We just actually launched a new version of AMP last week, so when you probably, if you have it on your phone, you got the upgrade. But we've got some really good things planned with our digital piece, and we really, for us, it's very important to take it globally, and really expand it to be the absolute best, virtual gym membership you can get, with the content, the programming, and the support. But it's not a big team, but we've got a small team of people in our company. It's about 7 or 8 people this is their job every day. They focus on this.
Yeah, it's a focused part of your business. I think that's the key. I think it's not, certainly in my experience, it's not something that you can just do and give it to one of the juniors to to manage.
No, not anymore. It's certainly very important, as forget the pandemic, just the new norm moving forward is people expect both. They certainly do.
So what's your view then on the home fitness market? Like you've kind of mentioned about the hybrid model. I know in our business, we've certainly seen a huge spike in people wanting to buy equipment at home, and a lot of the home apps, and as you say, Peloton. Do you think that working out at home is going to now become, and with people probably not commuting and that sort of thing anymore, do you think that's now going to become that other place that's going to be important for people in terms of their exercise habits?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking for a couple extra dumbbells myself when the pandemic hit, and I couldn't find them. And we know all the suppliers. It was a little nuts, but I think look, I do feel so strongly, and I think all my colleagues in the industry do. This is not going to replace the brick and mortar gym. The equipment, the selection, the classes, the community, the advice, the trusted support from whoever's operating those gyms. But I think it will certainly, and I hope it does. I really hope it drives more at home fitness. We need more people to get involved in a healthier and active lifestyle and working out. And I think as Gold's Gym, for example, we know a lot of those people will be in our gyms around the world. But we also, as being one of the founders of this industry, we are a trusted fitness resource around the world, and we are banking on that to ensure that we can grow that digital business, and with partners like yourselves and a lot of other equipment manufacturers who are delivering product to home to people. And delivering product is one thing, as you guys know very well, and you can make great product and deliver it. It's the expertise, it's the training, it's how to use it, it's the consistency, it's changing up the workouts and having that those coach-led workouts, even if you are at home. And that's where I think like a brand like ours and other brands out there can still certainly be very successful and succeed. But I do think home workouts are here to stay. Like we said, the Peloton's company, what's their net worth as of this morning? Who knows? I lost track of all those zeros, but they're growing like crazy. But that great product, great company, super cool content. Really, it hits a certain demographic of people, though, and I think there's so many more people out there who that's probably not in their wheelhouse or their affordability, where a brand like Gold's Gym, with the tens of millions of people around the world, can service them.
With what's going on, it's certainly, you see the word health coming up a lot in the news and media, and whether the stats are true, but certainly people that are overweight are suffering a lot more than others. If what you read in the press is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this situation, putting aside how difficult it is whilst we're in it, and particularly for companies like yourself, where you've laid off thousands of people and not getting any income, but in terms of as we move through this, do you think this is a good opportunity for the fitness industry as a whole, because maybe there's more people that are going to be looking at how to sort of get into more of a healthier lifestyle?
I really do. And there's out of every crisis comes something positive, and there's a few positive things: being at home a little bit more, spending time, bonding with the family, all those things. But I really do feel that I hope that people can understand coming out of this that fitness is an essential part of life. And I think we as industry folks have known that forever. And certainly fitness is there to make you look, tone, and increase muscle mass, or whatever your fitness goals are, cardiovascular success, all those things. But fitness is really good for the inside. And I think the people who might not have been involved in fitness prior to this are seeing that and realizing that it's not just about the outside, but it's what's on the inside. And what having a healthy and active lifestyle and working out regularly will do for you is it is its own set of preventive medicine. And let me be clear, it's not going to prevent COVID or anything like that, but it's just going to keep you in the healthiest state possible, help you fight it off with the immune systems, like you referred to, lessen the side effects and things of that nature. And I do think people are starting to see that. And I think we as operators, we have to take the stance of, look, we're not a cure-all for anything, but we can certainly help you prevent a lot of things, have a stronger immune system, respond and recover quicker. And it's our duty to go out there and help people do that. And I do think this has presented us with an opportunity for the average consumer and governments and people to see that we are essential, we are an important part of their lives, and we can help in the future more than just on the outside.
Coming to you now as a sort of leader of many people, what does leadership look like as we've gone through this crisis? Is it a continuation of what you personally have done before, or would you say that you've had to take on a different role? And if so, what are some of the things that you've had to do as we've been sort of going through the darkness?
Yeah, it's interesting for me. The way I at Golds and I run this company with my team, we're very open. I'm very transparent with my team. Sometimes my HR leader tells me I'm a little too transparent, but I've always maintained that level of transparency and honesty. I send an email out every Sunday night to my entire global employee base. I call it my Sunday night thoughts, and I just send a little information about me personally, what I did with my wife and kids over the weekend, the dogs, and a couple things, and then I bring it back to business, and we talk, and it's a few paragraphs, and I just do that every night. And that turned into more video-based messaging for me actually during this time, which I think I'll maintain. That'll be one of the changes, is that may go from email every week to maybe email once a month and video a couple nights. But I think, the transparency is key. I don't see that changing. And I think just kind of leading from the front and letting people know that you're out there with them, and being there and getting out there in the community and showing them. And that's always how I love to lead, and being in our clubs. I don't see that changing. I think actually it's more important than ever. People have been through something that they never thought they'd have to be through. We've all said we don't have a playbook for this, and that goes personally, not just professionally. There's no personal playbook for something like this. We've all had to deal with it in our own way. So I think continuing that transparency and communication and just openness with my team and being out there with them is how I'm going to keep running this company.
Excellent. So a couple more questions as we wrap up. So, and I'm going to put you on the spot with this one, and I know it's recorded, but it'll be just for fun. But what would you, what's your prediction? December, 2020. What do you think the fitness clubs are going to be looking like by the end of the year? Let's say, in terms of the US business.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we were thinking it's probably at least a solid 3 quarters before we can try to get ourselves back to where we were. So, I mean, I honestly just don't think we're going to be 100% to where we thought we would be in December. I think it's probably going to take until, next March or April for us. And I think we just need to be smart, adjust accordingly, manage operating expenses, and manage growth and how we engage people, and also how we diversify. It gives us that chance to diversify digital, preventative care, and other things that we can do in our clubs. But by December of this year, I do not think we will be back to where we wanted to be. I think it'll take another quarter or so.
All right. And then final question, Adam. So Escape Your Limits is about escaping what you've believed as impossible and made it possible. If you think about this year of 2020, what would be an example of where you've had to escape your own personal limits?
Yeah, me being, I'm a bit of a type A, high energy entrepreneurial leader. Like I said, sometimes a little too transparent. I get kicked under the table a lot, and so I don't know. For me, I think, and I also worry a lot. I worry about my team, my company, the people, and so I think probably for me, coming through this year was over the last 60 days, I've learned how to manage that a lot better as a leader, how to take my own deep breath, how to be my own psychologist in the mirror and save myself $175 an hour and talk to myself and keep myself in a place where I can get myself through things. And that's probably not something I thought I would be able to do as well. And I think this experience and the rest of this year is going to teach me that I've got to be there to support myself, talk myself through a lot of things. I've got a great team around me. I've got a world-class team we built here, and they're amazing. And they've been a super good part of that. And but that's probably one of the things for me that I've been able to push through. Well, probably never thought I'd be able to, but to push through and through this crisis and grow from.
Fantastic. I think as leaders, whichever position, whether you're running a club or a small team or a big business like yourself, I think those are the things that don't really get talked a lot. They don't get highlighted, and I guess they're not always shared. In some cases, if you share them, they feel a little bit like, well, what's wrong with you?
Yes.
It's almost like as a criticism. But I guess, when I talk to people off the record, it's something that I think we're all going through.
Yeah.
None of us, we've got families to worry about, people, business, and it's tough, isn't it? It's mentally, it's
it is. And people look at us as leaders and just expect rock solid. And I'm certainly not afraid to admit there's been times where I well up and I'm, trying to speak and record videos to my team, and I get too emotional because I know that I've had to make decisions along with our team and our ownership group that have cost people their jobs and have cost people time out of work. But these were decisions we had to make for the longevity of our company and our brand and things. But it's tough. It's emotional. And you have a good cry, you have a stiff drink, and you talk yourself through it and try to get out the other side.
Fantastic. Well, Adam, appreciate you being so open and honest with us. I really genuinely sort of wish you and your team success, and thank you again for joining us today.
Well, it's been great to be here, Matthew. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then please go over to iTunes and subscribe to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. It really would help us a lot to continue to keep these going.